We move now to the second of the 5 books of Moses, the volume of Shemot, which begins with the saga of the Israelites in Egypt. In this volume, we will also find the liberation from the enslavement. We'll find the giving of the Torah at Sinai. We find many of the civil laws. And we find the sin of the golden calf. And following that, there is the construction of the sanctuary. The first portion of Shemot begins with, these are the names of the children of Jacob that came with him to Egypt. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda. Names are significant. In fact, the Midrash tells us that one of the reasons that the Jews retained their identity in Egypt is because they preserved their Hebrew names. Naming has an interesting cyclical history. Currently, the common practice is, among many people, to name a child, a newborn child, after a deceased ancestor to perpetuate the memory of that ancestor. That wasn't always the case. Throughout the entire scripture, we do not find a single Avraham, Yitzchak, or Yaakov, even though these ancestors were revered, but for some reason or other, it was not the practice to name after them. In some eras, they gave Babylonian names or Greek names. In the United States, in America, the practice has been for many years to give the English name. Elizabeth, Jason, and recently there's been a very interesting phenomenon, and that is that there's a recurrence of giving Hebraic names. And this is among people who are not observant as well as among observant people. So a youngster will say, I don't want to be called Harry, I want to be called Tzvi. And we find names given such as Noam, Daniela, Ayelet, Vered, all Hebrew names. I'm not sure why this is. Perhaps it's because of our consciousness of our ties to Israel, and Hebraic names seem to form a bridge in a relationship to Israel. But for whatever reason it is certainly a laudable trend. It helps us retain our identity. Now, as you know, the saga in Egypt begins with the enslavement of the Jews. And the Torah tells us, a new king arose in Egypt who did not know Joseph. Interestingly enough, one of the opinions of the Talmud is, it was not a new king at all. It was the same Pharaoh who knew Joseph, but now he did not know Joseph. He was in total denial of the person who saved Egypt and who brought the treasury of all other countries into Egypt and made it the wealthiest empire in the world at that time. They owed a great deal of gratitude to Joseph. However, Pharaoh did not know Joseph. It's not that he acted as though he didn't know him. He did not know them. And how could that be? And there we have the psychological phenomenon of denial. Sometimes when a person doesn't want to know something for whatever reason, one just blocks it out and has no knowledge of it at all. And we have to be cautious because we are all subject to that phenomenon. There may be things that if we knew, that would cause us to have to make some changes in our life. And the prophet Isaiah says it so beautifully. He says that The ears of these people are closed. Their eyes are pasted shut. Their hearts are numb, lest they hear with their ears and see with their eyes and feel with their heart, and then they would have to change. Because change is difficult, what happens is that we sometimes block out things that we would rather not know. And that's what happened, according to this opinion in the Talmud, with Paro. He is the one who said to Joseph, I will make you the viceroy, and gave him unlimited powers. And Joseph brought in the monies from all the other countries who came to buy grain in Egypt. Joseph enriched Egypt, and Paro did not know him. Why? Because he had a design. He had a design and a plot to enslave the Israelites. And he could not do that as long as he was in gratitude to Joseph. So what happened is, he blocks out Joseph. Joseph never existed, and that left Paro free to carry out his nefarious plans. Let's just remember that. We are all subject to denial. We should be on the alert. We may not be able to detect the denial in ourselves, but when other people tell us so, we ought to keep our ears open, keep our eyes open, keep our hearts open, so that when change is necessary and to our advantage, that we will be able to change and realize what's needed.